Hey everybody, I'm the Drink Pro. Today we're doing a side-by-side of the most recent two batches of Alberta Premium. What's up everybody? Kyle the Drink Pro here with you yet again. We are back for Season 2. I guess I'll call it Season 2. It's really just 2021. I haven't been dividing this into seasons, but I'm happy to be back with you guys yet again. Thank you as always for liking this video, commenting on it, sharing it with your friends, and clicking that subscribe button and the little bell to get notifications. It helps me immensely. Today we're going to do a blind side-by-side of two different batches of Alberta Premium. The first one is the Canadian release that I was able to get my hands on from a friend in Canada. This is at 65.1% alcohol. The second taste here is actually the American release, but it was a higher proof, 66.0% alcohol. When I noticed at first there was a difference in the proof point, I started to wonder, is this a different product? Is it meaningfully different? Is it better? Is it worse? I'm super excited to get the chance to find out for myself. Now, many of you have probably only recently heard about Alberta Premium because the 2021 Whiskey Bible by Jim Murray found the Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye to be the whiskey of the year. But it's been around for a while. A lot of products you enjoy might have some sourcing from Alberta. Whistle Pig comes to mind. I think Barrel does some Canadian rye sourcing as well. So this is a product you may have tasted in other forms. But I wanted to find out for myself if the American release at 66% is as good or better or worse compared to the 65.1% that I received from a Canadian import. So today we're going to find out the best way I know how with a blind tasting. Next to me here, I've got a pour of each whiskey. Shout out to Yolanda for pouring these out for me. And I don't know which one's which. We'll do a reveal at the end. If you want to just see my standard review of the Alberta Premium without this blind component, check it out above. Now, before I forget, I want to give a big shout out to the Naptown Bourbon Club for supplying me with this Alberta Premium sample of the 66.0% batch. The Naptown Bourbon Club is a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. They do a lot of great work here in the Indianapolis and surrounding areas. I know this club has done a lot of cool things. They've done in-person events. They've done digital events online over Zoom and things like that. They've done barrel picks from several different distilleries. And they did a wonderful charity auction in December and gave a lot of money away to charity. So I'm excited to work with them. Thank you so much, Naptown Bourbon Club, for continuing to work with me. Cheers, guys. I pull out my little tasting wheel here. Sometimes people still give me shit about using a tasting wheel. Let me tell you, it helps trigger memories. It really does. And there are some things that I will just find again and again and again. But if I'm having trouble pulling apart a whiskey and parsing out interesting, unique notes, sometimes you got to go for it. And don't be ashamed of how you drink your whiskey. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a smell. First, I'm going to do the one with my logo on the front. More of these are coming soon, by the way. Now, this smells pretty standard and classic rye. It's very rye grain dominant. It's pretty sweet, a little bit creamy. You know, I almost get like vanilla and lemon pledge on this, which is kind of fun. Right off the bat, I'm already starting to have an instinct about which one this is because I've had several pours out of this Alberta Premium 65.1%. I have not yet tried the 66.0%, so I'm already getting an instinct about which one this might be. I gotta say the anise is really prominent on this too. Like, anise is not a note I typically pull. Sweet, creamy, and then this hint of anise, this very herbal quality, as well as an almost, I don't want to say medicinal quality, but a cleaner-like quality. And I don't think that's just from the alcohol. I think it must be this sort of sharpness and this lemon quality that's really popping for me on the nose. Let's smell the unlabeled glass here. Oh, much more subtle, much creamier. Oh, now I like this one a lot better, guys. On the nose, this is a lot better. And ironically, I think the reason I find this one so much better is because it smells so much less like a rye. It's very vanilla forward. I get a lot of this sweet, creamy, maybe a brown sugar quality. I actually get maple syrup on the nose on this. Ooh, it's a little sharp and astringent. I get pretty undeniable green apple, like a cinnamon apple vibe on the nose here. Maybe some chocolate as well. Like baker's chocolate. Definitely still get that creamy sweetness. I mean, both of these have the creamy sweetness, a hint of lemon, a hint of citrus, and a lot of vanilla for a rye. This one is much sharper, though. Interestingly, this is actually giving me more like citrus and then like cinnamon red hots, whereas this unlabeled glass is a lot creamier, a little bit more wood, more apples, more fruity notes, and a little bit more black pepper on the nose. I just don't get any rye spice or cinnamon on this one, and I get a lot more on the first one. So let's go ahead and taste the labeled one, and then we'll taste the unlabeled one. 65.1 or 66, I'm not sure which one yet, but that's hot. Ooh, lots of pepper, lots of spice in the mid-palate and the finish. Ooh, and the rye grain lingers. I get this interesting bitter oak and like fresh cut grain on the palate. It's really prominent. That grain quality really stands out on that whiskey. You know, it's not spicy rye, but the rye flavor is really prominent, almost like rye bread. And it stays pretty sweet throughout the beginning and the mid-palate. Now in the finish, the sweetness kind of dissipates and you get that oakiness, that dryness, and the herbal quality. It's a little astringent for my palate at this point, but it's not bad. Now let's try the unlabeled glass. Very different. This is much more in the bourbon category in my mind. The flavor profile is a lot more spice and heat and pepper on the finish of the unlabeled glass, but I don't get the astringency. I get some of the oakiness. I get some like peanut shells as well. Man, the pepper lingers forever on my tongue. Yeah, lots of vanilla, lots of oak, maybe a hint of cinnamon, very sweet. And then you get some of the bitterness, mid-palate into the finish. When you go back to the labeled glass, it becomes very clear instantaneously that it's much, much more grain forward, more bitter, more astringent, more oaky. If you like dry oak as a profile note, it's definitely more oaky. If you don't like pepper and you do like dry oak and you like herbal flavors, I think the labeled glass is going to be better. If you tend to go more bourbon over rye and you like pepper and you like the creamy sweetness that, you know, often comes with bourbon, ooh, and that apple note shows up as well. I think on the whole, I just prefer the unlabeled glass. It had less grain forwardness on the nose and on the palate. It was more creamy. It had some interesting pepper qualities. It didn't have that bitter oak astringency that I often don't like and shy away from. I found a little bit of that in the labeled glass. So let's add a little bit of water, and then we'll find out if anything changes for the better or for the worse. The labeled glass just got much more muted. The unlabeled glass, the sweetness became, ooh, kind of that classic old-fashioned style bourbon note. It's really sharply sweet and creamy. Oh, that's beautiful. When I added water to this labeled glass, it just kind of dulled most of the notes. It's still sweet, maybe more sweet than it was before, but the rest of the notes have been basically quieted down, which there's a lot more complexity in the unlabeled one. Let's go ahead and taste labeled. Ooh. I didn't do much good for it. Brought out a lot of like lemon zest and orange zest, but the bitterness became more prominent as well. The sweetness took a back seat. Don't like what that has done to that whiskey. All right, let's find out what the water did to this one. The water brought out the grain a lot, which is interesting because I felt like in the labeled glass, the grain got quieted, whereas the unlabeled glass, the grain became more prominent when you added water to it. It made both whiskeys worse. I think the more prominent effect was on the labeled glass, which I already didn't like as much as the unlabeled one. So the unlabeled glass is my preferred whiskey. One of these two has a marking on the bottom denoting that it was in the labeled glass. So let's find out which one it was. Unsurprisingly, the sample from the American version was in the labeled glass. And that's a real shame because I think it is a meaningfully different and worse whiskey than the import that I receive from Alberta in Canada. You know, it's a higher proof release for the US, 66% instead of 65.1, but I really encourage you to find the 65.1% release because honestly, it is far superior. I would never in a million years call that 66% a whiskey of the year, and I bet Jim Murray didn't either. I think that the reviewed whiskey and the whiskey people are going to want and seek out is the 65.1%. You're probably not going to get it in the US. You got to get that stuff in Canada. I'm not even sure if you can get the 65.1 in Canada. I'll have to ask my friend if the 66.0 is the new big batch in town all over the place. But certainly worth noting that if you see the 65.1%, buy it on the spot. Honestly, if it's under 100, if you see it for under 100, buy it. I've seen the 66 for 70, 80 bucks. I'm glad I didn't buy one now. Thanks so much again, Naptown Bourbon Club, for letting me have this sample and do this experiment. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to making more videos with you guys. Please stay tuned and consider sharing these videos with your friends, even if they don't drink whiskey, because I'm going to have a lot more content coming out that is focused on other kinds of beverages. I love coffee, I love cocktails, I love all kinds of spirits, and I'm looking forward to exploring them more in 2021 and showing where the crossover is. I look forward to that cross-pollination with whiskey heads and other kinds of drinkers. So in the meantime, you all keep drinking like professionals, and I'll see you later. Cheers.